former guard at the T. Don Hutto Immigrant Detention Facility in Taylor will spend less than a year in prison for groping 5 women detainees as part of a plea deal. Donald Charles Dunn will also spend 2 years on probation. Similar cases against him are still pending in Travis County. When the charges first surfaced back in May, they confirmed the fears of many who have been criticizing that facility since it opened back in 2006. Tonight, in an exclusive interview, another former guard says she raised concerns about Dunn that were ignored, along with complaints about serious policy violations at that facility. KXAN Shannon Wolfson is live with our in-depth investigation.
At any given time, there are between 400 and 500 women at the facility in Taylor. They're all accused of being in this country illegally. It is not a prison, but it's run by a company that operates prison. It's the Corrections Corporation of America. But one woman who worked there for more than a year says it isn't run right, and her attempts to report that were ignored. Come on. At her new home in Missouri, months after she left her job at T. Don Hutto, Kim Wyatt is angry.
I really hope they bury him under a prison.
She certainly doesn't mince words about her former colleague, Donald Charles Dunn, and the charges against him for groping at least 8 women during transports to airports and bus stations.
I am so upset about what he did. These women were entrusted to us. And the job that he had with taking them to the airport or bus stations, they were going home to their families. They weren't being transported out of the country. They were going home.
The facility is home to undocumented immigrant women taken into custody for being in the United States illegally. They're kept here until a judge decides whether they'll stay in the U.S. or be deported. But Wyatt says these women never should have been victims because Dunn never should have been alone with them.
A lot of the runs he did right before I left, he was alone with the women, and we had enough female resident supervisors on certain nights that they could have sent a female with him, or they could have sent a female instead of him on several of them.
How could this happen? We spelled it out for them. You know, don't do this.
Williamson County Sheriff Sergeant John Foster wrote the policy himself. He was appointed by county commissioners to watch over T. Don Hutto. And he was adamant no male resident supervisors were ever to be alone with female detainees.
If one person out there would have followed those recommendations, we may not be here today. Mr. Dunn may have not had contact with any of those females.
The warden, is that, I mean, you're talking about the warden,
yeah,
who has been fired.
Correct.
Warden Evelyn Hernandez was fired by CCA after the charges against Dunn came to light. But Kim Wyatt says she complained to others about Dunn's solo trips and what she calls his rudeness to the women at the facility long before any charges were filed against him.
I wish he would have contacted us and told us about this red flag. You know, because that would have alerted us that maybe this person doesn't need to be in the position that they're in, or maybe even be employed with CCA.
I was stunned simply because this man was in a van by himself.
Jose Orta is the president of the Williamson County chapter of LULAC, and he's been an outspoken critic of T. Don Hutto since it opened back in 2006.
As a taxpayer, you should care, because this is, you know, $15,000 a day. This is your money, your tax money.
Orta believes there should be more transparency at the facility and even more oversight. But Sergeant Foster says that oversight is already there.
They don't know when we're coming. I don't want them to know when we're coming. They don't know where we're going to go. They don't know. I mean, we can walk up to any door and say, open it, and they have to open it.
A lot of these people were just barely 18 that we had in the facility. And to take advantage of kids that young, because you don't think they're going to say anything because they're still dealing with immigration.
Kim Wyatt is still angry about the charges against her former colleague and hopes a change in leadership will keep anything like what he did from ever happening again. Now, we have to say we've not been able to verify Wyatt's claims because our repeated requests for information and interviews have been ignored by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Detectives say they have proof Dunn fondled even more women in Travis County, including one at his Austin home. We're told federal charges could be filed for those cases in the future. We're live in the studio. Shannon Wolfson, KXAN Austin News.
Shannon, thanks.